If you have a pet, they're not just an animal, they're family, right? But what happens when that family member has a medical emergency? So today, we're going to break down pet insurance and try to figure out if it's the right safety net for you and your furry best friend. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a tough question, but it's a really important one. If your pet had a sudden accident or got seriously ill tomorrow, could you really afford a bill that could run into thousands or maybe even tens of thousands of rupees? It's a scenario no one ever wants to think about.
And you know what? That scenario is becoming more and more common. The thing is, just like with our own healthcare, veterinary medicine is always getting better. There are incredible new treatments and technologies out there, but that also means, well, the costs are going up. An unexpected bill can cause a huge amount of stress and can even force people into making some truly heartbreaking decisions.
And this right here is what you might call the pet parent's dilemma. You want to do absolutely everything you can for your pet's health, but at the same time, you've got to manage your finances. So how in the world do you balance those two things?
And look, we're not talking about your run-of-the-mill checkup here. The real financial danger comes from these big, out-of-the-blue events. Things like a broken bone from a bad fall, a sudden high fever from an infection, a chronic condition that needs care for years, or an emergency, life-saving surgery. I mean, these are the kinds of moments that can just be financially devastating.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem. It's pretty clear. So now let's talk about the solution that's designed to handle this exact dilemma. A great way to think about it is, well, it's a financial safety net built just for your pet.
So what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, pet insurance is basically a health policy for your dog or your cat. You pay a small, regular fee, and in return, the insurance company steps in to help cover those big, unexpected vet bills. The whole idea is to take the financial stress off the table so you can just focus on getting your pet the care they need, right when they need it most.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. It's all about shifting your focus from, oh my gosh, how can I possibly afford this, to, okay, what is the best course of treatment for my pet? That peace of mind, that's really what it's all about.
Okay, so it all sounds great in theory, right? But the devil's in the details. What does pet insurance actually cover? This is where you really need to pay attention. Let's break down what's usually in and what's usually out.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty here. On one hand, you've got what's usually included. These policies are really designed for those big, scary, unexpected things we talked about. Accidents, serious illnesses, surgeries, x-rays and scans, things like that. But, and this is super important, you gotta know what's not on the list. Pet insurance isn't really for your routine, predictable expenses. That means things your pet already had before you got the policy, those are pre-existing conditions, or standard vaccinations, or even grooming are almost always excluded. Think of it as a safety net for emergencies, not for your day-to-day upkeep.
Okay, so maybe you're thinking, this sounds interesting, I get the coverage part, but how does it actually work? Well, let's walk through the practical steps from getting a policy to making a claim. It's probably more straightforward than you think.
First things first, does your pet even qualify? There are a few key things to look at. Age, that's a big one. It's always best to insure them when they're young, because coverage usually starts at around 3 months and goes up to about 10 years old. Your pet's breed can also be a factor. And, really important, they've got to be up to date on all their shots. You'll also probably need a recent checkup to identify any of those pre-existing conditions we mentioned, which, as we saw, aren't covered.
And actually buying a policy? It's super modern and simple these days. Pretty much everything is done online. You just go to the insurer's website, pop in your pet's details, and you can compare different plans and get a quote right there on the spot. Once you pick one, you pay securely online and bam, the policy documents are in your inbox almost instantly.
Okay, now for what's maybe the most important part of all. What happens when you actually need to use it? How do you file a claim? So the first step is to let the insurer know as soon as you can. After the treatment, you send in all the paperwork, bills, prescriptions, all that stuff. Then the settlement. Now there are 2 main ways this works. Most of the time, it's a reimbursement system. You pay the vet first, and then the insurance company pays you back. But some companies also offer a cashless option, if you go to a vet in their network, and they'll handle the bill directly.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the problem, the solution, what's covered, what's not, and how the whole process works. So let's just pull it all together and get to the final verdict.
When you really boil it all down, it comes back to these 4 core benefits. It gives you financial security, so you're not blindsided by a massive bill. It gives you peace of mind, and honestly, in a super stressful situation, that is absolutely priceless. It gives you the freedom to choose the best medical care out there, not just the one you can afford.
And finally, it just makes you a prepared pet owner, ready for whatever might come your way.
And that really leads us to the final big question, and it's one only you can answer. It's a trade-off, right? You pay a small, predictable amount of money each month or year to protect yourself against a potentially huge, unpredictable cost down the road. So is that peace of mind worth the premium? That's the decision every pet parent has to make for themselves.